This is Amplify Your Podcast. I'm Sarah Lepe, your coach for clarity, confidence, and connection behind the mic. If you're ready to lead with your voice and amplify your impact, you're in the right place. Most people think starting a podcast is just one more thing on their already overwhelming to-do list. But here's the truth. Podcasting isn't just one more thing. It's the thing that multiplies everything else you're already doing. One episode can become reels, carousels, newsletters. It could even become a blog post, and you can multiply it by turning it into a YouTube video. That's not more work. That's actually leverage. And today, I'm going to show you how to use your podcast as the engine that drives all of your content without burning you out. When I first started podcasting, I thought it was going to be this huge commitment. I was already working some crazy long hours. You guys already know I was a school principal. And the thought of adding one more thing to my plate, I think, is what led me to some hesitation until that one Sunday afternoon, I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going for it. But in the process, what I found was actually the opposite. Instead of thinking that this was going to be the thing that drained me, it actually saved me so much time once I knew what I was doing. So when I launched my show, Rebranded Athlete, I had one conversation, one recording session, and then from that, I could go back and I could create posts. I could also pull some quotes from it, write some emails, and share clips. And mind you, this was like 5 years ago, you guys, before AI was a thing. So I would actually have to go through myself, through the transcript, and pull these things. AI has advanced this so much that you could literally do this with the click of a button. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that one piece of content from my podcast episode would literally carry me through the entire week's worth of content. And all I had to do was just focus on the podcast episode and pull from it. I mean, talk about saving time. Not only that, it also opened up doors that I didn't even expect. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but having a podcast really allows you to step up and become an authority. If you're new to your space or you're trying to build your brand, a podcast is a way for clients to start finding you because they've heard of your show. And that's what happened to me with Rebranded Athlete. And then also people introduced me to opportunities simply because I had a podcast. I was able to do some speaking engagements. They wanted me on their other shows. And I also got some referrals in the process of people who I wouldn't have been able to connect with had I not started that podcast. And that's that big time piece of authority that you begin to build with your brand and within your show. And in all honesty, even though the show wasn't perfect, I look back now and I realize how much it helped me multiply my message in so many ways that I couldn't have done if I had hustled harder, if I had just focused on Instagram and, going in the DMs and putting posts and all these different things. Like podcasting was the thing that brought it together. And that's for me when it really clicked. Your podcast doesn't have to be one more task. It literally can be the hub for all of your content and creation throughout each week when you're creating your episodes. Here's the thing. I see this mistake happen so often with other entrepreneurs when they say, I don't have time for a podcast, or something like, you know what, if I do start it, maybe I can't keep up. I don't have the time for it. I'm not going to do it right now. And so they've sat on this idea forever. And what they don't realize is that by not starting a show, you are actually, number one, keeping your message away from some people who could potentially benefit from that very thing that you do. And then the second thing is that you are also working yourself harder with your content and your marketing instead of keeping it focused on having one main thing like your podcast being the thing that you're able to break apart in different pieces of content. And trust me, I get it. I was totally there too in the beginning when I started my first business. And I think really that's why I even dragged my feet with this current show that I have for my podcast business, is because I needed to make sure that I, quote unquote, like had my ducks in a row and all that kind of stuff. And one day I was just sitting there, I was like, you know what, Sarah, you've already got some shows recorded. You can literally build this along with your listeners and your clients and the people that you're supporting already, and kind of be the example of what it's going to be if you're going to start your show and stay consistent. So what I've been doing as well is creating more content just based off of these episodes that I'm doing currently. And it's amazing what you can do when you finally get out of your own way. And I think that's a big mindset shift as you guys are, business owners, if you are even in the workforce, right? Like a lot of times we're the ones that actually hold ourselves back because of the self-doubt and belief that we have. But like I said, in the long run, podcasting actually saves you a lot of time, because instead of you constantly thinking about, oh, okay, what am I going to come up with content for this week? And then not only that, how am I going to present it differently on a different platform? So for example, if you have TikTok, Instagram, those are very different than LinkedIn and how you show up on that. And so there are ways for you to take your content and multiply it in different ways so that it can show up and work for you on those different platforms. And by creating that one episode, again, it's going to become your source for everything else that you do. And you got to kind of see it as like your podcast is the main stage, right? So everything else, your reels, your emails, LinkedIn posts, Instagram posts, those are just the encores from the episode that you created. All right. And so when we're thinking about creating all of these aspects within our podcasts, and like I said, the podcast industry has changed so much, even in the last year, with AI becoming more predominant in everything that we do. All of the different softwares and platforms that you can utilize to help support your show actually now have AI embedded into it. And so I'll give you a couple of the resources that I like to use. So Opus Clips, if you've never heard of them before, I think it's a pretty decent software that can create some Instagram reels for you. And what I love about it, and it's even evolved in like the last 6 months too, where you can get really specific about even the type of conversation that you're looking for within your show, and it will embed B-roll. It'll have the captions for you, and all you got to do is upload your episode. You can put your brand colors in it. You can even put your brand logo, however you want the style to be. And within a click of a button, in about 15 minutes, it'll analyze everything, and it'll come up with like 20 plus clips for you. And you can even mark down to, if I want this to be like a 15-second clip, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, like you have the ability to do all that with one click of a button. And I think when you look at it this way, like if you are a content creator out there, how much time are you spending right now creating some of your reels, some of your posts? And could something like a podcast, even though it sounds like or it feels like one more thing to do, how much time would this actually save you if you followed the process and really showed up in a way that if I know that I'm going to go behind the mic and hit record, I'm going to create this great episode, and I'm going to get so many different pieces of content that are going to help me do my workflows even faster throughout the week or weeks. Because sometimes podcast episodes, I mean, they're so rich and robust that you could be, sprinkling and embedding this content for an entire month, right? Within whatever your niche is or the industry that you're working in. And so really think about it. If it's going to multiply your message across all these different platforms without you having to reinvent the wheel, you should go for it. And I'm a person that's speaking from experience with that. And it's been so wonderful throughout the last 5 years of like how much I've evolved because I decided to hit record that one Sunday afternoon. So I don't want to just like tell you what you need to do. I want to give you some tips here of like how you can actually do this. And I've got this method that I use with my clients. It's called the multiply method. And this is the way that you can take this one piece of content and really reframe and think of the different ways that you could utilize this podcast episode. So step one would be to record, right? So when you're going to sit down to record, this is where I think you'll probably want to spend your most time, is crafting and thinking about what your outline is going to be. You want to create one strong, clear message in your podcast episode. Okay. So like, for example, the episode I'm dropping right now for you guys, we're talking about how You can take one episode and it can fuel all of your content that you do as a business owner. And so this could be the anchor of how you start the episode. You've got it crafted, you record all that. And then step 2 is when you actually begin to repurpose it. So you're going to chop that episode into micro content, like we talked about earlier. That could be reels, quotes, audiograms, carousel posts, you name it. If you have a newsletter, you can chop it up into that as well. And like I talked about with AI, there are softwares that are really great for podcasting, but an AI that you're probably really familiar with is ChatGPT. And so when you record your podcast episode, you actually have a transcript that you can download from it, and it has all of the written word of what was verbally spoken within your episode. You take that, put it into ChatGPT, and you want to prompt ChatGPT with also who you are, what your show's about, and the type of people that you are looking to reach and connect with. And so from there, you can put the transcript in there and ask ChatGPT to create content for you for Instagram, for LinkedIn, for your newsletter, or even if you have a blog. It can literally create all those pieces of information for you. And I'm a big advocate on using AI, but you also need to read it over and make sure that it sounds like your voice and that it is not a robotic fashion, right? Like you want to make sure that it sounds like something you would actually say. And the more that you work with ChatGPT, the more it gets to know the way that you like to respond to things. And it just gets easier and easier the more reps that you put. So again, remember, repurposing, this will save you so much time in the long run. Step 3 is going to be recycle. Now that you're probably like, wait, recycle what? Recycle your episodes. So don't be afraid to bring older content back up, especially if you've been podcasting for some time. Imagine if somebody has found your show, most likely they'll probably go back. If you have a trailer, they're going to listen to the trailer. If you've got your first anchored episodes in there, episodes 1, 2, and 3, however you launched with, a lot of times people will start with those, but most times they're going to find your latest episode. And that's really for a couple of reasons. One, people want to be relevant with what is happening in the current moment. And if you're 300 episodes in, people are going to want to hear what's more current because your first episodes were probably from a couple of years ago. Doesn't mean that they are not worthy of being listened to, but a lot of times things evolve and change. And so people want to hear the latest from you. And also, the other thing is that you as a podcaster, you're going to sound completely different from episode 1 than you are on episode 300, right? So you've also had a lot more practice. Your delivery is probably better. And a lot of times your content's probably going to be even juicier. So if you have somebody that had just joined you, you might want to refer them to maybe episode 50. Maybe that was a really strong episode for you. You can bring that one back up and publish it again. And so it's a way to repurpose it. And also for the listeners, even the ones that have been there with you for every single episode, it's a good reminder for them to hear something that really resonated with your audience. And you do all that by tracking your metrics on the software, the hosting software that you use to push out your episode. You can actually see which shows perform the best. And so you can take a look at that. Another reason why you might want to recycle is if you are going to take a break. Now, some of my clients, we talk about this. It's life happens, and sometimes we need a break from podcasting. And what you want to do if you are going to take a break, I highly, highly suggest that you do a planned break. And that means that you are either getting ahead with some of your episodes so that it continues to roll out without you actually recording. So let's say you want to actually take summer off with your kids. So if you know that in the month of July, you're not going to be doing any recording, you either want to get ahead on your shows, or this could be a way that you go back and you repurpose. And so you could actually take a couple of the episodes that you had from earlier ones and repurpose those, re-release those. Or if you have a VA or somebody that's working with you or our team, we could go back through your episodes and pick some of your top moments and release that as a podcast episode. So it's another way for you to still create your content without having to redo it from scratch. So that's how we recycle. And then the fourth one that I want to draw your attention to is to redirect. And this is always pointing your content back to your offers, if you have a community, or what the next step is to work with you. And when I had Rebranded Athlete, this is something that I did not take advantage of. And I'll be totally transparent with you right now. And it's the fact that I didn't feel like I, number one, was worthy to put my offers out there. To me at the time, I thought it was being like salesy because I was working with college athletes, and I was just like, well, I want it to seem like I'm here to help people and not sell my stuff. And really, you need to have somewhere where you are funneling people to your offers because they are building that trust with you. They want to be part of a community that you have. Maybe there's a small ticket offer or a high ticket offer. They are attracted to you and your content because it is providing value for them. So you'll always want to make sure that you look at your podcast as the biggest marketing tool for your offers and businesses and utilize it. This is your time to be your biggest advocate for the services that you provide. So don't feel afraid to put it out there because I guarantee people are already thinking about, man, I really like him or I really like her. Like, how could I get to work with them a little bit more? And the other thing is like, when you think about bigger shows, so if you've ever listened to Diary of a CEO or The School of Greatness, you guys know I'm a big Lewis House fan, they manage to dominate every single platform. And this is how they follow this type of a method where they're looking at creating this one piece of juicy content and they are repurposing it. And yes, obviously they've got a big, huge team behind them, but that doesn't mean you can't do that with AI or VA or hiring somebody like our team to help you create all these other dynamics with your content. And so keeping that in mind, if you really think about this multiply method, there are many ways for you to take that one episode and bring it to the next level. All right, so we broke that down. I want you to actually take some action this week and do something. If you already have a podcast, I want you to take your latest episode and I want you to repurpose it into 3 other pieces of content. That could be something like a reel with your best soundbite. If you had done a video podcast, then you can take that video and repurpose it. If you just did an audio, that would be an audiogram, and just take that and repurpose it, put it out there. You could also take a carousel and break it down into your top 3 points. So carousel, if you haven't seen them before, if you look on Instagram, those are the posts where you can slide to the next thing when you're trying to really educate people on a certain topic or a point. And finally, something else that you could do is create a newsletter for your email list. So I challenge you this week to come up with at least one piece of content that you could repurpose from your episode. And again, like I talked about earlier, utilizing AI like ChatGPT to help you with this is going to save you so much time. And there's no right or wrong way. You just need to set the time aside. Set aside 15 minutes to just do this and play around and see what you come up with. And you're going to be amazed by the content that you're going to be able to create just from that one episode. And if you don't have a podcast, I also have a challenge for you, or I should say you don't have a podcast yet, right? So you want to get out your phone and get that voice memo app, and I want you to just record one piece of content. So if there's a topic that you are interested in, if there's something that you talk about all the time with your business, I want you to just get on there, even if it's just a couple minutes. That way you can create some pieces of content from it. And again, you can do the same thing with ChatGPT, and on your phone, you can actually copy the transcript, put it right into the ChatGPT app, and you're able to repurpose and create content. And once you do this, you're going to see what I mean, right? Like I can stand here and sit here and tell you all about the things you can do for your podcast, but it really comes down to you taking the action and realizing that your podcast isn't just this extra thing. It's actually going to be the multiplier for your business. All right. So I know I hit you guys with a lot of information in this episode. I want to do just a quick recap because I want this to stick with you. First thing, remember, podcasting isn't one more thing. It's on your to-do list, and it is the thing that is going to multiply everything else you're doing. So you need to make your podcast episode a priority each week or every other week, however often you do your shows. And the second thing is that, remember, the biggest objection that I heard was that I don't have time for this. I don't know if I can keep up. These are actually reasons why you need a podcast. One episode will fuel your entire week of content. And with the right system, that consistency becomes simple, and you are going to want to show up more often behind the mic because you're going to see how much you can accomplish just from that one episode. And remember, I walked you through that multiply method where you record, repurpose, recycle, and redirect your content. And that's how you take one message and spread it everywhere without burning out. Your podcast is not just another item on your checklist. It's the one thing that multiplies everything else that you're doing. And I know you're doing a ton of things within your daily life and your business. So if you've been holding back, you've been waiting until you have more time or energy, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not going to happen until you take some action. And this is your sign. Your voice is ready, and your podcast is the hub to getting this done. And remember, your podcast should fuel everything that you do. If you have any questions, you want to connect, DM me at Sarah_Lepe to learn how we can work together. My team and I would love to support you through this process. And don't forget, your voice is powerful and your message matters. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. If this episode shifted something in you, please share it with somebody else. And if you're ready to grow your podcast by growing into your voice, DM me the word amplify and I'll show you how we can work together. Remember, your voice is powerful and your message matters. I'll see you next time.